and this might be like kind of an interesting segue for this group, because I wonder how this makes you how you feel about this. I was in like, dude, I was in like Kansas City, or I was in somewhere in Missouri, and I was in like a Walmart. It was super random. I was just like traveling, and I saw a children's hospital fund with your face on it.
Yeah.
And when I saw it, I was like, I know him. It was like little Zion. It was like 8-year-old Zion. And I freaked out, and I might have texted the photo to you, Randall, being like, dude, check this out.
Yeah.
This is in nowhere, Missouri.
Yeah.
Have you heard that a lot?
They're all over in Walmart.
Why Walmart?
IHOP.
Yeah, IHOP as well. They're
Really?
starting to take them down nowadays, but yeah, they still be around.
Is it still like 8 or 10-year-old Zion?
Yeah, it's like 8-year-old. It was 9 or 8, one of those.
Do you remember seeing that like as a kid somewhere?
Yeah, I used to, like, when it first came out, I took pictures with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. If I ever see one, I walk in and start celebrating like, I know this famous person. It's weird weird to see you guys as grown-ups now, because in my head you're still that kid, you know.
That's why I told Ariana we couldn't ask the question she wanted to ask, because I'm like, we're still kids for real. Like,
but at the same time, it's almost like you guys are different people, though. It's like you're not even the same person, so it hopefully doesn't feel awkward at all.
No, it's not. Yeah. No, it's not awkward. It's just y'all are the OGs. So you guys live together. All right, y'all. Welcome to a very special episode of the Medical Mafia. So today we have Clay and Randall joining us, as well as Timothy. We're gonna put Timothy in the place of Weezy, who could not make it today. So we have a couple of questions for these guys, because they were once our counselors. They were once essentially our parents for multiple years in a row for 1 week. So we have some questions that we want to ask you guys. But before we get into that, I do want to remind everybody that we have an email that you guys can send us questions and or topics to. It's themedicalmafia513@gmail.com. And then you can also follow us at the Medical Mafia on Facebook as well. So first, I want everybody that has not been here, in terms of like Jacob and Bethany, to do an introduction, and then I'll have Randall, Tim, and Clay introduce themselves, and then we'll do the questions. That sound cool?
Sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
All right, cool. Okay, Jake. We just need first name, diagnosis, and age, for those of you that have a diagnosis.
Okay, I'll start first. My name is Bethany. I'm 23 years old. I'll be 24 next month, and I had rhabdomyosarcoma.
Okay. Jake.
Hello, I'm Jacob. I will be 23 in less than a month, and I also had rhabdomyosarcoma.
Okay.
Juju, though, I was diagnosed with chronic myeloid leukemia, and I just turned 21.
Okay. Randall, you want to go?
Yeah, my name is Randall, and I worked at Camp Joy from 2010 through 2016.
Clay.
And I'm Clay, and I also worked at Camp Joy 2010 through 2016. And I have the proof. I have the proof right here to show it. It's the Camp Joy official Camp Joy lanyard.
Timothy.
I am Timothy. I only worked Camp Joy for 1 year, 2017.
We kidnapped Tim. Tim is in the group chat and everything. Tim is one of us. So I guess we could just popcorn the questions. There's questions that are on the sheets that we have, but there's also questions that like people were going to come up with. I know that Jake had one that he was dying to ask Clay.
Oh my God.
I can't wait to see where this goes.
I don't even know where he at. He tapped out on us. All right, listen. Okay, so here's what I'll do. I have a question that I wanted to know. What is something that you learned from working with us that you apply to your everyday life?
Great question. Who wants to go first?
I could jump in on this. So I think I should start out first by saying, like, camp for me feels like a lifetime ago. It was 13 years ago is when I started working there. And a lot of camp, like, there's definitely things that stick out, and a lot of it is just smeared together. But I think the thing that I take away from my camp experience in general is that, like real kids deserve real staff or real people working with them. And I think that when I was working I think as a counselor and then as like a manager at camp, you have a tendency to, like, you want to show up as somebody, or I think that it's easy to be in your head about like how you present in front of a group of people. And to me, it was like, there was a point at camp when I learned, like, the kids who are showing up, I want them to show up as their real self. And in order to allow them to do that, like, I got to show up as me. I got to, like, kind of set the tone of, like, I can be 85% of who Clay Howard actually is, right? There's like 15% that I'm going to reserve for myself, but I need to show up for this group of kids. And to me, that, like, I held onto that throughout Camp Joy. And then I worked at a therapy program with teenagers post Camp Joy. And to me, it was like so helpful, like, especially when people are trying to share the hard stuff with you, when you show up real, like, it just, the door is opened a little bit further for the hard stuff to come out.
I think to kind of piggyback off that, I think that's something that I definitely learned as well. I think going deeper than that was when I came into camp, like, I had never really been around any person that's been diagnosed with things before. So, like, my head, I would naturally set limits. Like, I would have set limitations on you all, like, oh, you can't do that, you can't do this. But rather than doing that, really realizing that, do not set limitations on anything. You guys are capable of everything. You deserve, you deserve, like Clay said, my genuine self. I want your genuine self. And then if there are limitations that you guys have, like, I watched the last episode that you guys did, and you guys are talking about knowing your own body, to where if you guys know your own body so well, I will let you tell me what you can't do rather than me telling you what you can't do. So, it was always just 100% for me, just 100% having fun with you all and giving you guys that 1 week of camp, because the way that I always viewed it was, this week of camp that you guys get, for whatever reason, you may not be back next year or ever. So I'm going to give you everything of myself to make sure that this week is as best as possible for you guys.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of what both of them said, coming as my whole self, because coming to you all as who I portray myself to be for many weeks, was not going to work for you all, and obviously did not work for you all, because you all brought out the real and honest me. And
we just wanted to see the best
like,
version of yourself.
Yeah. And so
I knew, Tim. I knew.
It was that, and then also how to persevere, like watching you all in your daily lives, really, me personally, as you all welcomed me in as uncle, dad, friend, watching you all persevere through your pain, your struggles, and that taught me, like, it taught me to just kind of smile through even my own, like, and y'all, like, joke through, how you joke through your struggles and, going through the hospital and stuff. It taught me, like, I can joke through my own pain. Like, it's funny. It can be funny. It can be funny. So, yeah.
It's okay to laugh. Yeah. I feel it. Yeah. No, I think those were all really good answers. I started getting teary-eyed there for a moment. In all honesty, and I think that like you guys coming as yourselves helped us do the same essentially. You know, there's times where I know Clay said it felt like camp was forever ago. And some of us was there as long as you was there, you know what I'm saying? But y'all played a part in something that was so much bigger than what I think y'all think it was. Or at the time may have thought it was. You know what I'm saying? And by y'all coming and being yourselves, it helped, like I said, it helped us even become what we are now, doing what we're doing, you know. So I think that's pretty dope. Does anybody else have anything to add?
Well, I mean, to comment on what you were saying, like you guys definitely were there more than we were. Like I feel like we didn't make camp what it was. Like you guys made camp what it was, and we just played a role in it. I think you're about to disagree with that, but you're wrong. You're wrong.
I kind of do.
You guys brought, and I wonder how you feel about this, Randall. And Timothy, energy that you guys brought, like some of the campers brought into camp, and especially like this group of people. There were times where I think some of the Camp Joy staff is like along for the ride, and we're like up in front of people shouting and screaming and singing songs and stuff. But I mean, look what this is now. Like you guys have stayed in touch for this long. Like we don't have anything to do with this. So I stand firm in my belief. I think that we were a part of your camp experience, not you were a part of our camp experience.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Understandable.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and to go like deeper into that is like Clay was saying, like, you know, we could be up there singing songs or trying to get you guys to play a game or do this or do that or open or share, but ultimately we can say whatever we want, but it does come down to you guys. And like that's impacted us more is like when you guys begin to share them, we're like, yeah, we got them, you know, and then it's like we can give more energy and then we get more jived up. So we played off you guys way more than what you guys probably thought, like to where you guys brought the energy and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna mirror that.
Yeah, because I sure thought y'all used to just be on crack or something with how y'all
was. Oh, especially.
Yeah, because at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Vicky yelling about Humpty Dumpty pulling up the wall. You know what I'm saying? I that was your
I always knew that Clay had gotten enough coffee or whatever he needed the minute he started singing Black Socks in the morning.
Totally.
That's when I knew.
I always had a 12-pack of Red Bull in my cabin. Wake up and just chug them.
So something that Randall and I would do on the first day of camp every year is before campers showed up, we would shotgun a Red Bull.
Hold on, let me correct. That's every single week prior to campers showing up for every year we were there. Yeah. So right before we peach you guys out, we shotgun a Red Bull. Our hearts are pounding. We're like, all right, let's go get them. How you guys doing? Trying to hang out while we're jived up.
Probably took a collective like 10 years off of my life, but
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now.
I loved it because I'll never like if I'm being honest, because I think I came a year before Clay and Randall, so like 2009, and when they came in, especially Clay, I remember I think we were at this like fire pit, and he was like jumping around the fire pit, and I remember being scared, but I was like
man, 20-year-old Clay.
Hey, all I know is when Clay had the walkie-talkie, I knew my mans had made it.
I know.
He ended up with a walkie-talkie and made it.
Wow.
That was my thing for sure. But Jake, you want to ask Clay the question that you had?
Yes. Okay. So
yeah.
I've talked to Kai about this before because once you achieved walkie-talkie status, you became kind of like a force of nature. And what I mean by that is that I cannot count on both of my hands how many times this has happened, but it has happened enough for it to have stuck with me forever.
Oh my gosh.
So obviously we're all not the healthiest group to hang out with, but when some of us would have to take the golf cart to get from one place to another, could anybody in here, especially you, Clay, explain to me how we could leave somewhere and Clay would be talking to somebody, and then we would get to our destination, and then Clay would already be there talking to somebody else, and then he's just not out of breath or anything like that.
Dude, I was whipping them camp vehicles. I was.
Because that would just it would just happen all the time, and I'm like, how do we leave before him and he gets to our destination before us?
Yeah.
There's secret underground tunnels for counselors that y'all don't know about.
There has to be.
Express routes.
So
he was running with the full force of the camp spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. So the question is how is that possible?
Yeah, listen, I just don't understand it.
I don't either, because our camp vehicles were not that fast.
No.
Our golf carts, there was a governor on our golf carts, so we couldn't go over a certain speed. And I think that was because people before me were just blasting on the golf carts, and then you know how one thing leads to another. But I will say, those summers, especially when you talk about like when I was only in cabin for 2 years, 2010, 2011, and then 12, 13, I was coordinating. And then, what was it? 15, 16, I was managing. And, so when I was in cabin, obviously you're not talking about those years, you're talking about the latter ones. Those summers were some of the most exhausting summers of my life. Not exhausting in a way of like, I wanted it to end, but exhausting in the way of like up at before breakfast, you know, probably 7:30 or 7 o'clock, and up until like 11:30 every night. And there's no chill. There's no chill whatsoever. It is constant. Like the fires that would pop up around camp, like the metaphorical fires that would pop up, and you would feel like you have to like run around and extinguish them. And then when I was working with like any of the medical camps, also juggling like whoever is the point person, the nursing staff, or like whoever's coordinating from the hospital side of things, I just felt like I was always on the go. And I mean, it was awesome. It was awesome, but it makes sense that you would see me chatting with one person in one place, and then you guys would have to walk as a big giant pack and big packs of kids don't travel that quickly. So you're like, you're not saying that much that I would be from point A to point B before you got there. Sometimes a pack of kids is super slow. But I think it just speaks to like how much madness happens at a summer camp behind the scenes, especially when you're managing.
Yeah.
I know, I'm sure Rando, I'm sure you feel that.
Yeah, I got lucky that I worked more with the low income and foster care programs, as you guys all know. So I got lucky in the sense of I didn't have to also juggle that on-site client. So like when it was come to times like if we had to change something or do something else, it was my call and almost my call alone. So that was kind of gave me a little bit more peace. But he's talking about exhausting in a good way, to where it's like every night when I went to bed, I always made it my goal that I want to be wiped out. I want to have given everything I can today, and I want to need that Red Bull in the morning and keep going.
And Jacob, I know you got on a couple of those golf cart rides.
Yeah.
So don't act like
No, I was, and like even what I mean, like even when we would take the golf cart rides, like you would still wind up in places before we would get there. If I was with other people,
you might have got like VIP pass on the golf cart. There's like a summer in particular that I remember you and I hung out a lot. You were probably like, do you remember this? Does this ring a bell?
We were like joined at the hip.
You were probably like 12 or 13. Does that make sense?
12 or 13.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally remember.
Just turned 12 or it just turned 13. And we just did everything. They just I would just be like, hey, me and Claire hanging out. So.
Yeah.
Hey.
Nobody really questioned it or anything, so it was just fine with us.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. I want to go through my phone. I have, you know how like pictures will transfer from phone to phone. I have some old pictures on my phone from camp days, and I know I have a photo of you as like 12-year-old Jacob. But at the end of this, I'll pull it up.
Jake with the hair.
So actually, the funny about that, I'll send you this picture through Facebook, Clay. The day I cut all my hair off, it was almost down to my waist.
After you cut it, did you feel like a loss of power?
My head felt really light.
Yeah.
And then I realized I was like, so this is like how much shampoo normal dudes actually go through. And then every day for like 3 months, whenever I'd put a shirt on, I'd go to reach to pull my hair through, and there was just nothing there. So then I looked like a weirdo.
I had the exact same issue, Jake, but it was with my beard. Where I would try to swipe it out of my shirt after I cut it off.
But yeah, it was like I donated so that when you donate your hair, they like ponytail it off in the sections.
Uh-huh.
And I donated 4 ponytails to Wigs for Kids.
Dang.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a lot of hair.
How many years of growth was it?
So I think my hair started growing back in like 2008, 2009. And I just never wanted to get a haircut because I was tired of not having hair as a child.
That makes sense. So it's connected to like whatever treatment that you had.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't want to cut my hair, because when I was getting treatment, I didn't have hair from. I started getting my first round of treatment in like the first week of November in 2006, and then I just didn't have hair. I want to say my hair started growing back in like early 2009, maybe late 2008, but I can't remember. But yeah, I just never wanted to get a haircut. I would like barely go and get it trimmed. It would have probably been longer if I'd went and got it trimmed every once in a while. But I just didn't want to go. So I just kept letting it grow. And then I went to a Young Life camp and I completely shattered the bone in my hand for my pinky. And I just couldn't take care of it all. So 2 days before school started, I just decided that I'm going to go cut all of it off. And then showed up to school and people just didn't really recognize me. I went from that to like this style of haircut in one day.
Love that for you, Superman. Love that for you. Love that for you. I do have a question. I have a question for the people. So like, as you guys had to work, it was a couple of like medical camps where there are other camps that people didn't have like illnesses or anything. But like as counselors, how did you guys, like if you did, educate yourselves on the illnesses like of the kids you were taking care of?
Will you say that again? Part of that cut out for me.
I said, how did you guys, like, if you did, educate yourselves on the illnesses of like the children y'all were taking care of?
Or did you have any education or at all?
Mm-hmm.
I would like to start. Well, when you all came, my education came from actually Kaya, because she came up a day early. Because I mean, we had been talking about you all coming maybe for about a week and a half before she got there. And my worries were, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how to create a great atmosphere for them and make sure they're fine and make sure they're not doing what they're not supposed to do, doing what they are supposed to do. And then Kaya came and educated us on what we should or should not do, what we should or should not say. And so it was a thing of, okay, now I know how to treat you all. And then once you all got there, the education for me got a whole lot better, because I was like, y'all were telling me what y'all did and did not need, did or did not want. So it's like, okay, I got y'all. Cool.
But I think, Ariana, it wasn't a mama moment. What had happened was in 2015 at Clay Bay River, the water gun situation really pissed me off. And that is what prompted me to have to come in the following year and say, this is what's going on. Y'all not about to play with us when it's half of our last year. It wasn't about to happen. I wasn't about to let it happen. So that's why I had to come in and educate, because clearly what was supposed to be done was not being done, in a sense, in my opinion. The floor is your guys' now. Sorry, I had to clear that up.
I
Yeah,
think
get the story
for
straight.
for me, I kind of agree with Timothy to where he said like Kaya educated him. Now that seemed like structured. Most of my education that I got and like really learning about the diseases you guys are going through are those small talks that we had that you guys may have just thrown away, not knowing that like we'd be sitting like on the ficky or sitting in the dining hall or something, and maybe like, hey Kaya, like because she like just went through a pain crisis, and then being like what does that feel like, how do you get out of that, what's your day to day like, just asking you all questions and letting you guys give me firsthand knowledge on what you guys are going through, how to help you guys out in those moments, what like Timothy said, what to say, what not to say. But a lot of it was on the fly, just in the moment. It might be like a random golf cart ride up to the rec center and being like, and you guys want to open up. Like I never tried to dig because I didn't want to talk about things if you guys don't want to talk about things. But as soon as you opened up about anything you guys are going through, I was just question, just trying to learn everything I possibly could from a firsthand account.
Yeah, I'm gonna honor that I didn't know much. I didn't know much. That's just a reality. So the hospital staff would come in. Kai, this might have been like before. Maybe there was a point where like campers would come in and educate. There was a period before that where the hospital staff would come in and they would come in a day early and they would do a rundown of some of the main illnesses, and they would even like grab certain counselors and pull them aside and be like, hey, here's some kids that you should be like, not like especially aware of, but just like aware of what their boundaries could be, like check in with them. But the hospital staff was so great about that. Like they were super supportive in that way. And I remember enjoyed all being, the medical staff was like just way in tune with the campers that were coming out each year, more so than like they just set boundaries in a healthier way than other camps that I worked with at times. Like I just felt like they were kind of champions of for the campers of like what may cause a flare up or what may be like, I don't know, outside the lines. I think what some of my education came through is like, it was like a teabag steeping. Like it wasn't like somebody's presentation, but it was just being around the camp all the time and like seeing stuff. I remember going into the med cabin and seeing Justin Kova and Drew Barry, both as campers, getting factor, and just like seeing that felt like I was like, oh, I kind of get it. I don't get it, but I see like what this kind of looks like. Or I would see like, I know for sure I saw you, Kaya, going to the med cabin with a flare up and like just it looked like you were in a ton of pain. And I watched a bunch of kids go through that. And so I think just the exposure over and over and over, year after year, like that's the best education. Like you can tell somebody, but when you see it and when you see like the response to the person experiencing it, that was realist for me.
I like that. I like that.
Right. I think that's a great
all around.
I do have something to add on to that kind of as well. I actually had a cool experience that reminded me of you guys. Actually, it was about a year and a half ago. So I was a general manager of Skyline Chili. Yeah. So I was working at the Skyline Chili, and I actually had a staff member that applied to work for me. And during the interview, they told me, "Hey, I do have sickle cell, and what that means is like, if I'm on my," and I was like, "Oh yeah," and then like I went into what camp was, and like I had some experience, like being around them, and then it was easy for me to be able to tell them because of you guys and that experience of, I'm open to whatever you need. So you just tell me. So there's multiple times, like after a couple of hours, that she'd be working and she would be like, "Hey, I need to take a break. Like I'm starting to get fatigued. I'm starting to get real tired, and I don't want, any crisis to come on or anything like that." Like, "Oh, dude, take a seat, do your thing." And then like the other cool thing for me was being in a situation of being the general manager where I could have her take a seat and sit down and keep her clocked in to where she wasn't penalized for that as well. So that was me having that experience from you guys, real world experience, and being able to put it back into someone else's life. And I was like, man, like shout out to that HEMOC camp, like awesome.
That's dope. I hate to break it to you though, on the Skyline part, it was only good when we was at camp and we was hungry, and that's all we had to eat. Columbus, we got Skyline here, but it ain't as big as in Cincinnati.
No, the Skyline slab.
It wasn't all that. You got out
Thank you,
Oh, you're tripping.
especially
Shots
like hot dog
fired.
or something crazy.
Shots fired.
Shots
I'm in
fired.
Florida now. I don't even have Skyline anymore.
Cracked them, and inside it's glass, like you're breaking glass inside the plastic, and then like
Yeah.
chemicals, whatever. But we cut a bunch of them open, and like we like cracked them, cut them open, and then we were like slinging them all over the cabin so that it was like glow. It was like, there's glowing all over. And then we realized that we were just slinging glass all over the place.
Yep.
And we realized it because one of the campers like grabbed their bunk or something and cut their hand. I'm glad I don't work.
No.
Like,
He said, "I'm